what's your turnover rate for SDRs? How long does an SDR stay in position before they're promoted? Another really important thing is, what are the SDR goals? How many people are hitting those goals? If you don't know what you're getting into, then you could get into a really bad situation. And if they're being truthful with you and they say, oh yeah, everybody hits their goals, and then you find out nobody does, that's a big red flag. And then I was asking, is it an open door policy? Can I speak to my manager anytime I want? Can I speak to his manager or her manager? What is the company culture like? The culture is a big fit, because if you go to a company that has too many red flags, you're not going to last there.
Landing a great job opportunity is sometimes very challenging. Breaking into tech and getting hired as a sales rep can be even harder. When I was applying to my first sales jobs, I also struggled with the unknown. What to expect, what the tech industry was like, and how do I break in? After years of being an SDR myself, I've decided to build something I wish I had in the beginning. My name is Stefan, and in the SDR Hire podcast, I interview successful SDRs and salespeople who share their stories straight from the trenches. Learn how they got their first job offers, how they succeed every day in their roles, and what makes them stand out in their organizations. We all have what it takes. We just need someone to remind us of the opportunity and give us a better chance for success. Let's get your next SDR gig. Hey, welcome back to the SDR Hire podcast. I'm your host, Stefan, and if you're new to the channel, this is a place where you can learn from top producing sales development representatives what it's like working in tech sales, how do you break in, what do companies look for, and how to succeed as an SDR, all for free. And today I am talking to Nick Phillips. He's an SDR at a company called People Data Labs. Nick calls himself a middle-aged SDR that does not have all the answers, but is willing to share what he knows. Nick is a very humble man because he knows a lot, especially about the data selling space. He prospected his way into his first SDR experience, and he's been crushing it ever since. And other than that, Nick is a Marvel fan and a SaaS dad of 2 girls, if I'm not mistaken. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you on.
It's great to be here. And actually, I'm a dad of 3 girls, and they're all
3 girls.
teenagers. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're in the red zone.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, well, maybe we can just start with, why you were a Marvel fan. No, I'm just kidding. Let's let's just cover your background a little bit. I know you've been, you know, across the board, like you've tried a lot of things in your life, only to end up in tech sales. But like, it would be interesting to hear what brought you up to this point.
Yeah. So it's true. I've had quite the journey, I should say, to bring me here to People Data Labs. But I started off in fintech, or in sorry, not fintech, in just in finance. And after I got my degree in finance, and while I was going to school, I was managing a Starbucks, and so I got some management experience. Then went to like a credit union, managed a credit union, did all of that for about 10 years. And then what really got me into just the SaaS world was just I was getting burned out at my job, and I was looking for something else. And I came across just the weirdest profile, like the weirdest job call for a happiness manager, and I had no idea what that was. So I just reached out to the recruiter and said, "What the heck is a happiness manager? Like it sounds really cool, but." Anyway, she explained to me what it was. It's more like an administrative type role, but in that conversation, she was looking at my background and was like, "Well, you should apply for our like an account executive role." And so I did, and then I was hired very quickly after that, and that was kind of my first jump into the data world, I should say. And yeah, and then since then I've bounced around bounced around since then too. And currently I am a senior SDR at People Data Labs, and I love it. It's awesome.
I love it more because this is, I don't usually, like SDR is not usually a role that, you know, people with some kind of experience, like usually you got very young, fresh from college, young folks who get into the role. So it's very, I love the fact that you were, well, not in your 20s, obviously. Um, and you have that huge experience behind you. I mean, I think that's very rich for the SDR role, because when we compare it to other industries, for example, an account executive is like, for example, in the banking space or insurance space, right? You've got these like 50-year-old like veterans that have been selling
Yeah.
for 25 years, right? That are armed to their teeth with like sales experience. And over here in tech, we've got like us, little babies with almost no beard at all, trying to sell something. So it's a very unique perspective, and that's why I was very excited to have you on and to chat about all of this. So can you just maybe you can give us a perspective of what that previous experience, especially the management part, did it make a difference in those interviews? Does it make a difference today in your role as an SDR?
Yeah. So I think that like just from all of my past experiences, it just gives me a confidence, right? So I know what I can do. I have a work ethic. I'm not afraid to pick up the phone or to try new things. I think that's what is interesting about the whole SDR role is that you do have a lot of people that are very green, they're fresh out of college, and this is their first job, and they want to try different things out. They'll try the cold calling, they'll try a bunch of stuff, but I've seen that they get discouraged easily, and then they just bounce around. So they're all of a sudden they get burned out of one job. They're like, that's too hard. Then I'm going to go to another job. I think that what's unique about like my experience is being old, and like the SDRs I work with, I'm old enough to be their dad, but it's nice because I do have that like management experience, and I do have I've gone to college, I have an MBA, like I have a lot of those experiences. So then when I do show up to work, I like show up, I'm 100% here, and the confidence to be able to sell to people, I already know I know what I can do. And of course I'm always learning, but at the same time, that confidence and just being able to talk to people, that's something that I noticed that at least with my age, it does help that I can jump on a call with somebody and not just jump into sales or not get flustered when they ask me a question I don't know. I have no problem saying, I don't know. I'm not a data scientist. That's a great question. Let me get back to you on that and just keep the call going and keep that momentum going.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. None of us green folks can really talk to that. But no, for real, I've had like it took me a while to develop confidence in myself, and for example, while selling, especially when I used to sell things that I wasn't really that bought in about, meaning like, it took me a while to kind of learn to sell like whatever, but it got a lot easier when I started selling myself. Anyway,
Mhm.
obviously as a freelancer, not something else. But uh, okay, awesome. I love that perspective. So you've been around the block. You've had some management experience. You came in as an account executive to people, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
okay, just for everybody listening, we've got people, we have people data labs, right?
Correct. Yep. Two
Okay,
different
okay.
two different people, same industry. Very confusing.
Well, maybe not. Maybe that's the reason, because you guys are basically in the people space, meaning you deal with data about people, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, we'll get to that. So, what happened after? So, I saw you've been at People twice, once, or rather, and you have a couple of roles in between. Like, what happened there?
Yeah, so the first role, that was my first time in data, and I mean, it's a great company to work for. Just some things had changed in management, some priorities changed, and after, gosh, almost a year, just decided it was time to move on. And then from there, I sold cars. I tried going back to Starbucks. I kind of bounced around a lot. I worked at a church for a year, but I wanted to get back. And I had actually reached out to a friend at People and asked for a reference for another job. And she she said, well, we have an SDR position that's opening that I would be perfect for, and I could help develop the role, and it's brand new. I'd be the first SDR. Um, and I honestly, I was like, gosh, I'm willing to check it out. And then when I did, it was awesome. It was super fun to be able to create a role that was different than like an account executive, because the one thing about the SDR role that's super fun and unique is that it has a very short sales cycle. So really you're not selling much, you're just introducing them to the next like enterprise sales rep, and then you move on to the next one. So you do build a little bit of relationship with people, but then you also get to like meet somebody then right after that, and then again and again. And so I really liked that sales cycle. But then being able to develop the role and like create sequences and cadences and work with different platforms like Salesforce and HubSpot and Pipedrive and stuff, it was really fun to be able to be a part of that. And then unfortunately then people didn't had another round of layoffs, and that's where I ended up at PDL. But it was a great experience. I think I learned more in that year and a half that I worked as an SDR than I did at most any of my other jobs. It was really, really fun to be able to be not like an individual contributor, and to be able to create processes for other SDRs to follow.
So you even though it wasn't an AE role similar to the
Mhm.
one you've had before, you had basically more responsibility, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting too that has like how the SDR role is kind of evolving. Like you can look at a lot of companies that are hiring SDRs, and some of them it is just pretty much a telemarketer. So you're going to get paid as such. Maybe not great benefits, but you're going to be making 200-300 calls a day. It's not that hard. I don't want to say that it's that's hard, but I mean I don't want to make 200 calls a day, but what I'm seeing now though is that SDR companies are using SDRs now as they should have been before. They're using them as people that are strategically going after companies. They're doing their research, they're finding the right people, they're getting the right people on calls, they're saying the right things, and it's more strategic rather than a spray and pray and hope that somebody just responds to an email or a cold call. So I think that the level of responsibility and pay is going up, because you do see the companies that just want that telemarketing position filled. I mean, they just don't pay as well. But then the ones that do require you to get your hands dirty and get a little bit more in there, they're paying well. And also, there's people now that are like, I like being an SDR. I make good money. I like I like my bonuses, and I like this. I don't want to jump into the next step. So it is interesting how it's evolving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. From what I could tell from people who I spoke with that have been in the industry for like 10, 15 years, like nobody wanted to be an SDR. Like
Mhm.
everybody knew, like, okay, I have to be an SDR to get to a certain level and just jump either in that company to the next level, which would be an account executive or something like that, or just go to another company and get an account executive role, or rather the sales role, right? Versus like hey, people really enjoy. I mean, I enjoy being an SDR, which is basically trying to figure out how to book meetings, being present on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
learning different skills. And I think that's probably one of the biggest changes that have happened, which is you really need different skills today versus I guess 10 years ago or something, which is you need to know how to be a good copywriter for posting or rather publishing on LinkedIn. You need to know how to write your own cold emails. You need to know how to write your own cadences for that matter, adjust your phone scripts, right? So anyway, I think those are like the biggest changes. Is that something you've seen as well?
Yeah, because it really before it was almost like the SDR role was treated like you're an intern. It's
Yeah.
like you were an intern, and it was just this like entry level that would get you to your next step. And I do see now that it still is kind of like that. Like, but they're paying better, and it's a lot different. There's a lot more involved in it. And then the next step isn't always an AE. I mean, now it's like, because there's SDR teams, it's, do you want to be an SDR manager, an SDR team lead? Do you want to get into training now? It's like it does kind of branch out now to where you can do a lot more things than just be an SDR and then be an account exec.
That's right.
for sure.
I've also seen folks who even jump to marketing in different roles. So whether it's going to be email marketing or it's going to be some kind of content, especially folks who are very active on LinkedIn. So social selling. Is it going to be, a plethora of different things? So I totally agree with you. Okay. Um, so you basically got yeah, you got laid off at
Mhm.
People and they're another. So they are a big company, right? They're like a publicly traded company.
No, they're still pretty small, like 130 employees, and
Ah, okay.
yeah, they're still pretty small.
Gotcha. Well, then, I mean, maybe it's better that you have left. No, I'm kidding. But so you went to PDL. So did they headhunt you? Did you apply with them? Was it a referral? What did that look like?
Hey there. I wanted to let you in on a couple of additional resources available other than the podcast and the social media content. So I recently started a newsletter where I break down the best pieces of advice from the podcast about getting hired, how to be a top performing sales rep, into actionable nuggets that you can apply literally as soon as you read them. And in addition, if you're currently looking for an SDR role, you can fill out a form to let me know, and I'll do my best to help put you in front of tech companies hiring for SDRs. All right, back to the show.
I would say this is good advice for anybody looking for a job. So for me, I had built up my LinkedIn presence for months, and I had quite a few followers. And part of it was I was just posting stuff. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I just post stuff that somebody could possibly use. So I started doing these like SDR tips, and so I started doing that. People started following me, and then I was telling you this earlier, I got COVID on Monday and I was taking Tuesday off at my other job at People. And and all of a sudden I had a mandatory meeting with HR, which is never good. And then, got told, hey, you're laid off. But then what I did is, of course, I went into a little bit of a panic mode. And then Wednesday, I posted on LinkedIn that, hey, just got laid off, looking for an opportunity. And it wasn't until like even just Wednesday, I already had like 10 interviews booked for Thursday, Friday. And so it was just amazing that being part of LinkedIn and all of a sudden people are like, hey, we're interested, we're interested, we're interested. And one of those was the PDL one. Um and it just worked out so well. Every interview I had, I was like, man, this is a great company, it was a good fit. And they just kind of got me that way.
I love it. I love it, and especially what you've done with LinkedIn. And uh, we all keep emphasizing how LinkedIn is important, especially to people who are just coming into the industry. And there's a lot of interesting initiatives going on. For example, Adriana Vidal, you're probably
Yeah.
familiar with her. She has this awesome initiative that's called 60 for 60 or something like that. She's working with fresh folks who are coming into the industry to help them start posting, and they're like posting every day for 6 days. That's a really awesome initiative. And also similar to what you did, I saw it at a Landon Mayer. He got laid off just recently, and he's an amazing dude with
Yeah.
some awesome, stuff that he's done. And he posted on LinkedIn, and the amount of just sheer opportunities that have come out of those posts on LinkedIn are just humongous. What I'm saying is, um, not posting on LinkedIn, not being present there, just sharing your thoughts and expertise. It's just a huge miss out on the part of people who are not doing it. So I just wanted to emphasize how important it is.
Well, and people don't know what to post. That's the other thing is they're like, oh, well, I'm not an expert or
Yeah.
whatever. Like you don't have to be an expert. You just share what like your opinion. And if you think it's going to help somebody, great. Because that's the other thing too, is that there are people that'll tell you that cold emailing's dead and that it's all about cold calling. And another person will say it's cold calling's dead. It's all about emailing. And some people, it's just everybody has what they're passionate about. There's no right or wrong way to get a lead because you never know where you're going to get it from. But it's nice to be able to have that the options to be able to like, okay, well, I'm going to read this whole thing about why I should cold call and why I should cold email, and then you can kind of glean from that, get your own find your own voice in all of that, and then turn around and then find what works for you.
Yeah, exactly. And funny you should mention like what works better, or worse. We've all seen so many posts that say like this is that or this is that. And the fact is, different prospects in different industries react to different outreach channels differently, right? So, oh, I love how I said this. So, um, there's this, I started something in addition to these series where I interview successful sales folks. I started something called Meet Your ICP, where I'm basically going to be interviewing folks who are and like decision makers in different industries, in different companies, different sizes, across different departments. And I'm asking them those questions like, do you take cold calls? What does your inbox look like? And so, I guess what I'm saying is like, check that out, everybody. Like that's gonna be, I think that's gonna be the next big thing. But anyway, like the point is, hmm?
No, I just say that's awesome because I mean, for you to like get feedback from somebody's ICP, that's so helpful because in my world, I talk to a lot of product managers. Product managers don't want a huge email of what your perceived pain points are. They don't want a lot of content. They just want to know, how can you help us? Okay, great. If it's interesting, they're going to book time. If not, they're going to move it along. So I mean, just having that conversation with different ICPs is going to be really helpful.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I'm gonna there's been a huge demand. Okay, we're kind of sidetracking. There's been a huge demand, like HR leaders, recruitment leaders, CROs, and okay, now we have project managers. Although I did want to interview project managers, I think that's a huge target audience that a lot of people are going after. So, okay, we can talk about it on another occasion. But let's just talk about people data labs. So you got there, you got accepted pretty quickly, and then so what happens next? What was your onboarding like? Especially considering that you already have significant experience in both the SDR role as well as the that industry.
Yeah, no, the onboarding was great. I mean, the nice thing about the onboarding is that part of it is learning about the data world and you know what PDL has to offer and what makes us different, that kind of thing. And so having the background in data really helped me be able to pick up a lot more of the nuances and be able to dig in a little bit deeper rather than starting from a very high level and then start to work my way down. So I mean, like the onboarding was great. It was, you know, the typical like, you know, ramping up period um, and it they did a great job as far as laying everything out, getting the processes, the new tech stack that I wasn't familiar with how to use some of these tech stacks, but it's, you know, they have a lot of great tools. And I think that was the kind of the cool thing is that it wasn't even though I'm a senior SDR, it wasn't like, okay, we're just gonna train you a little bit and then just let you loose. It was more like, we're going to train you with what you know. You can get loose, you can let yourself loose and start calling anytime you want. And so that was really cool to be able to onboard but not be held back at all.
I've never felt that, so that sounds pretty awesome. I gotta admit. Okay, cool. But what is PDL? Like, what are you guys selling specifically? And also, like, who are you going after? Like, the size of the market, is it like SMB, mid market, enterprise? What's the sales cycle like?
Yeah. So okay. So PDL is a raw data company. So we don't have like a customer interface where you can put in information and get information out. It's not customer facing. It'll plug into the back end. We have 3.2 billion person profiles and 18 million company profiles. Who we're selling to are enterprise level fintech, martech, sales tech, HR tech. The funny thing about the data world is that everybody uses data. So it's not so much a niche market where you only sell to HR companies. It's everybody can use us in different ways. So you can use us for like identity verification and contact enrichment and I mean just a whole bunch of different things. What I do specifically is I'm focused in like the fintech e-commerce section. So what's kind of cool about that is that then I can learn a little bit deeper about how customers can use our data. And then I kind of pay attention a little bit more on like LinkedIn and stuff when you hear like, fraud things pop up. I'm like, oh, well, maybe Twitter with their fake profiles now, maybe they could use our data to help, verify people. And so it's kind of cool that way to be a little bit more siloed instead of it so broad, just because again, data, everybody uses data in all different industries.
Right. So are you saying you're going to have an initial conversation with Mr. Elon himself?
Yeah, we have one tomorrow. No.
Yeah, but that sounds like you actually have a pretty good place to regularly find prospects who are actually expressing their problems that you can actually solve.
Yeah, and it's nice being in this world too, where fraud is just going crazy, and it's rising so fast that to be able to be part of not so much a tool, but a piece of the puzzle that we can help other people be more successful at.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good mission to be on.
Yeah.
So that's totally cool. Okay, and so you're selling to enterprise companies, and also the fact that you're in the fintech plus e-commerce space, I think it actually gives you the opportunity to really niche down and learn about those specific use cases where you don't have to kind of juggle with, okay, like how am I helping the marketing tech company? How am I helping the sales tech company? So that's probably data enrichment, where as with these guys, for example, fintech, it's more like these KYC things, right? Or like,
Yep.
yeah, gotcha.
Yep.
Interesting.
Identity verification, KYC, all of that. But then the interesting thing is then you start, if you just focus on fraud alone, then you learn about synthetic fraud and friendly fraud and like all of these the things that is out there that you have to be, educated on. And so that's another cool thing, is that there's always something to learn.
So you're almost like a fraud prevention and fraud detection consultant, almost.
I become that, yeah, when I'm talking to like a fintech company. But then if I talk to an HR company, then I have to know a little bit about their ATS, that applicant tracking system, kind of what they use, what they're looking for, what they're starting with, and what they want to enrich. So then you have to like switch gears sometimes, because sometimes you get an inbound lead that's queued to you that's not fintech. So
That's
you
super
have to be
interesting.
able to pivot.
Yeah. Okay. I do want to come back to the, let's say the interview process, just to cover one more question, which is something I'm gonna start asking in these future episodes, which is like, what is a question not that you got asked on a meeting, or I'm sorry, on an interview, but what is a question that you would ask to a company that you're interviewing with? Like, what would you want to know? What would be important for you?
Yeah. So the questions that I ask, and I think everybody should ask, is, what's your turnover rate for SDRs? How long does an SDR stay in position before they're promoted? And another really important thing is, what are the SDR goals? How many people are hitting those goals? Because if you don't know what you're getting into, then you could get into a really bad situation. And if they're being truthful with you and they say, oh yeah, everybody hits their goals, and then you find out nobody does, that's a big red flag. And then I was asking, how does leadership, like, as an SDR, is it an open door policy? Can I speak to my manager anytime I want? Can I speak to his manager or her manager? What is the company culture like? The culture is a big fit, because if you go to a company that has too many red flags, you're not going to last there. So for me, it was goals. What are the goals? And if SDRs are hitting them, and then what's the company culture? It's a positive, negative, that type of thing. Those are really important questions to ask before you jump into a new company.
So agree. The problem that I had was what to do when you get all the right answers and you accept an offer and you start working, and then it turns out it's you should have done more proper research or something like
Yeah.
that. Like, how do you recognize red flags even though everything seems like it's okay?
So the other thing to do is reach out to other people on like LinkedIn, because the nice thing is, if you reach out to let's say an SDR at the company through LinkedIn, it's not a monitored channel. So they're going to be they'll be honest with you. So if you say, hey, are you hitting goal? They're not going to say, oh yeah, I kill it, because there's no incentive for them to do that. They might say, man, I'm struggling. It's really hard here. And that would be red flag. Or they'll say, it's awesome here. The goals are set, they're hard, but they're achievable. You can get a better idea. But that's what I did. If I did go to other people and just kind of LinkedIn message them, just to kind of do your own reconnaissance and find out a little bit more about the company.
Hey everyone, I started SDR Hire in the first place to help as many of you as I can to land your next job, become better at sales, and just help you propel your career. So if you're finding value in this content and you know somebody who will benefit from it, please share it with them, tag them in a post, send them via text, share it wherever you share stuff with your community. As always, all of this is completely free and is here to help everyone succeed. So your recommendation goes a long way. Appreciate you, and let's get back to the show.
So cool. Awesome. Okay, I would say that you are a very successful salesperson, a very successful person in general. You're very rich. You have a nice family and a good job, if I can say so. So, what do you think? Like, what would you say is the reason behind you being as successful?
Oh, I think part of it is enjoying what you do and finding the pieces that you enjoy. Like I don't enjoy everything I do in sales. I mean, there's times that I don't want to make a phone call, or I don't want to make 10 phone calls because I'm just not feeling it. But the parts that really make it, like, I get energized by meeting new people and just talking to people and having the conversations. And I think that's super fun. And to take it a step further, then if I'm able to, in a conversation, find out what's like a pain point or a challenge, and then say, hey, we can help you fix that, it feels great. So for me, just leveraging my social skills and my just liking talking to people and stuff, that makes me feel like great. And then I show up to work excited every day, instead of it being like clock in, clock out. It's more I enjoy looking at my schedule and like, okay, I have six meetings today. I'm excited about them. I mean, that's just me. I like that. And of course I like being the best at what I do. So then I can talk smack to other people.
Oh, that's so awesome. So hey, can you remember a very creative way that you've booked a meeting so far?
I'm trying to think of, I have had somebody that initially I sent out the wrong messaging to, it was the right person, but they're just the wrong messaging, and it was in a sequence. And they're like, although the reply was, hey, not interested. And I was like, I replied, I'm like, hey, no problem. I totally understand that. I'm researching your company now and realized I sent you the wrong message. And this is what we could do. Would you be interested in that? And then they actually booked a meeting after that. They said, oh, I'll give you 15 minutes to chat about it. And so that was just kind of a fun way of taking a no and just flipping it around and taking ownership of, yeah, I had a time where I just wasn't paying attention, put them in the wrong sequence. It was like didn't make any sense to them, but they were nice people, so we were able to book a meeting and then book a follow-up meeting after that.
Yep, that shit happens. I mean, I think there's no person that has ever lived that this hasn't happened to them.
Yeah.
I mean, in sales especially. For example, things like, okay, you basically put the wrong person in the wrong sequence, more or less. That's kind of what happened, right?
Yeah.
I remember sending out I had just the one bracket versus the two brackets, so it went out like, okay, first name, right? I had like just broken emails with I don't know, like I don't even remember anymore. For example, it would say value prop, something like that.
Yeah.
And so people actually, because I think it's a pattern interrupt, right? And so people would be like, what's wrong here? And they would reply. And again, I mean, you got a reply, so it
Well,
counts.
and then I would say to new SDRs, everybody's done something like that. And I know that, like, the first time I did that, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get fired because I sent off like 200 emails and it had the bracket thing. And I was like, this is horrible. the other thing too is I think just SDRs just need to just relax and be like, yeah, that was really dumb. And there's a chance that I sent out 200, but in the scope of things, 5 people might read it. That's just the name of the game. It's not the end of the world. And just kind of learn from it, but don't let it drag you down. You got to stay positive. You got to keep grinding and find some way to laugh at yourself and laugh at the situation.
That's so true. I mean, they're not even going to remember that you called them. They're not going to remember your name. They're not going to remember that you sent them an email. Like literally 3 days after, like nobody knew you ever existed.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there a thing that you actually dislike about being an SDR? Okay, you mentioned like, okay, sometimes you, hate doing a call or not feeling like doing like dialing like 30 minutes of phone calls. But like, is there any, major things that make you want to like hate the SDR role?
I wouldn't say major. I think one of the biggest challenges is as an SDR, you're working with enterprise sales reps. So you're working with other people. There kind of tends to be sometimes where like an ESR almost treats you like you're their secretary. And there's this weird, like almost like a parental relationship that sometimes they have, and it drives me insane. That's one thing that drives me nuts. But I've noticed that just pushing back and kind of reevaluating, like, hey, we're team members, and I don't work for you, I work with you. And just kind of recalibrating that relationship is really helpful, because I can say I've had that where it's just they get it mixed up. And they think that, hey, I want you to go after these people, and I want you to do this, and I want you to do that, and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. We work together. I don't work for you. We're a team. And I think honestly, like in my experience, like once I put people in check and just kind of remind them of that, then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, because they're not trying to be, bullies or anything like that, unless they really are, and then you just don't give them
Well,
leads, right? You just go
yeah,
to the next person.
especially if you can like choose who you're
Yeah.
gonna send traffic to. So that's a that's a good perk. But you said ESR. Let's just translate that.
Oh, sorry, like an enterprise sales rep or an account executive, just somebody that, as an SDR, typically you're booking meetings for somebody else, but that somebody else isn't above you. That's where you have to remember that it's a lateral move. Your job you're hired for is to book the meetings for that person, not as a up and down, but just a lateral.
I totally agree. I remember when I was working in an enterprise supply chain company, like software for the supply chain industry, like hardcore enterprise space, and there was that relationship. And I remember it being like I was paired with an amazing dude. He's so awesome, and he was a fair bit older than me, and he was like more of a mentor than he didn't have that um, weird parental way of doing things like you mentioned, and he wasn't just cocky. He was like, I want you to do this for me. But I do remember that a lot of other reps had that same issue, and like there isn't really an easy way to deal with that. So I think you coming with your level of experience, it's probably a bit easier. But what do you advise your fellow SDRs? Like, do they ask you like, how do I deal with this? Do they like kind of bitch about the relationship they have with their ESR?
Yeah, so I would say, yeah, for me, being super old, it's easy
No.
to no, but for me, having the background, like experience, like I don't have a problem coming to somebody and saying, hey, the way you're talking to me, it's not, I don't appreciate that. Like I don't have a problem confronting somebody in a productive way. But like I totally get like being a new SDR green, and then you're already like sales pressure, and then you get to the point where you want to please these people and get them good leads. I think the best approach would just doing the one-on-one and being collaborative, like hey Joe, I love working with you, these are the companies I was going after, do you have any feedback that I could, being more of like asking their opinion, and kind of developing that relationship. So it's not just, hey, I just sent you a lead, let's jump on a call. And it's just that one-on-one where it's just sales related, but try to get to know them a little bit better. And then, just say, hey, I love working with you and dropping things like that rather than working for you, that type of thing. I mean, I think just having that conversation and keeping that door open is pretty big.
Yeah, I love this advice. And yeah, I mean, I kind of related to what you were saying because like it wasn't really that long ago. Cool. So, where do you, or rather, like, what would be a message to your future self in like 3 to 5 years?
Oh, 3 to 5 years is, I think I would tell myself to like network more, network more on LinkedIn and stuff. Cause I know that it, I can't be that person that posts something 600 days in a row. Like I haven't done that, but maybe that's, in 3 to 5 years. I mean, I see that a lot of people that are very successful on LinkedIn, they have a lot of followers and it does come with consistent posting. Um, I think for me, it would be to add that to my daily routine and to have more of a daily routine, because that's one thing about an SDR world is you don't have a daily routine. Everything changes from day to day. So it's hard to manage yourself to be like, okay, from this time to this time, I'm working on sequences. This time to this time, I'm working on cold calls. The only thing I could say to block out would be cold calling, because that's the only thing that you really do need to block, a 2 hour block for that, because you'll never fit it in if you don't block that part out.
So speaking of future, what would you like? Where do you see yourself? What are your next steps? Would it be an account executive? Would it be like management? Would it be something completely new? Again,
Yeah, I think I would, at this point, I love managing people. I love helping people and developing them and helping them be successful, especially when they don't, especially if they're new and they don't think that they have any transferable skills. Like they're like, oh, this is my first job. I've never been an SDR. But then you find out, well, you were on the football team or you're on the lacrosse team, you have teamwork experience, or you worked at McDonald's for 5 years, you know, you have cash handling, you can deal with rude people, you can you can deal with customers. I love being able to help develop people and say, you have a lot more you're bringing to the table than you think, and then just kind of help develop that. So that's one thing I'd like to do is like, get into like SDR managing. The other thing is kind of not is kind of a little bit different. I really would like to like maybe even get into training and help people onboard and help build the foundation so that when they are an SDR, that they hit the ground running and that they have the confidence and they know how to use the tools, and then so just be that constant support for them. So those are two things I'm kind of interested in right now.
okay. Well, I do kind of feel like you're that guy. I would love to, have a training session with you and you can just walk me through because like you really give that vibe of just like calm maturity and like, I know that whatever you tell me, I'm gonna feel better. So like I have that vibe from you. Um, anyway, so, what would be like a final message, whatever we want to call it, to SDRs out there, or rather, folks who are trying to break in and become SDRs? What would be your message to them?
Um, I would say do the research on the company that you want to work for. Look at the product and find something that you're passionate about. And if it's something that you like, for instance, like in the data world, if you want to be like a superhero in fraud and be a crime fighter, that type of mentality, I mean, yeah, get into the fintech data world and cybersecurity, that kind of thing. But find something that you're genuinely interested in, because if you're genuinely interested, you'll be able to you'll be able to learn it faster. And then once you do find like an industry, then start doing research on it. Go to like RepView and find out what people are making. Would this be a good career for you? Um, and then two other things I would just say, if you want to break into the SDR world, is find your voice. Know that not everybody's the same. Like I've worked with some people that are super high energy and they reflect that on their phone calls. They're like, hey Stefan, this is Nick, da, 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 da. Like it's just high energy and stuff. That's not really me. I'm more of kind of a chill, laid back person. And there's no right or wrong way, but find your voice, because you can't, like, I can't be a Josh Braun. Like I can't be Chris Voss. Like that is not my personality to be like direct and stuff, but they have good stuff that you can listen to. But find your voice and then just be confident. Like just know that you have a lot to bring to the table, that a company would be honestly lucky to have you, and know that your skills would help grow the company, and not just another job, but actually you can be an individual contributor and that you can have an impact. But just knowing that going into a conversation with a recruiter is huge, because then you're not thinking, well, I've never cold called before. Well, yeah, but you know how to use a phone, and and as long as you have confidence, you can do that. And everything is, those soft skills and stuff are the ones that are trainable. So you can definitely do that. So I would say confidence and finding your voice, and yeah, and do some research.
Amazing. I don't have anything to add. I'm just gonna go to the next question. This was amazing. So we're gonna go into the rapid questions part, and then we can start wrapping up. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. So rapid questions. Let's go. Best SDR learning resource.
Probably HubSpot. HubSpot has tons of certifications that you can learn, and it's free.
That's really cool. Nobody has said HubSpot so far, and they're literally have like an academy of free stuff that you can take.
Yep.
Amazing. Okay, best SDR skill.
Confidence. Be
Hell
confident.
yeah. Awesome. What is, in your mind, one of the best SDR creator or creators to follow?
Ooh. Um, gosh, I'm my mind's going blank. I really I like Josh Braun and Chris Voss because they're so confident. I love this. I would say Kyle Coleman is probably my favorite, because he's more of my personality and more chill and just, hey, let's talk about this, and it's nice. So I would say Kyle Coleman's probably my favorite.
Nice. Cal Coleman is probably my pick number one for a boss. If I wanted one, I would
Yeah.
probably want to have Kyle as my boss. Okay. What is your favorite SDR channel?
My favorite channel? Like, what do you mean?
Meaning
Sorry.
like cold email, LinkedIn. No,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry. Yeah.
Call.
Um, mine's LinkedIn for sure. LinkedIn messaging is my favorite.
There we go. Awesome. What is your, okay, so favorite, let's say LinkedIn message opener, how you reach out to people, and maybe you can share a cold call opener that you use.
Yeah. So for cold LinkedIn messaging, it'll be like, "Hey Joe, I'm new to the fintech world. Love to connect with you. Saw your profile. Looks pretty interesting." And just keep it real simple, but more of just a, "Hey, you can help me out." And my favorite cold call one is like, "Hey Stefan, this is Nick. Yep, this is a cold call, and if you're willing to roll the dice, I'd love to chat with you for 17 seconds." It's kind of
Oh,
a pattern.
I wanna
Arrow.
talk with you, dude. No, but this was so smooth. Like I felt like, yep, sure. Why wouldn't we talk? Let's talk. Okay,
Right.
amazing. By the way, regarding your LinkedIn, it sounds more like a connection request message, um, or like probably the first message that you send once you're connected. So what's the, like, do you get responses on that? Like, do you
So,
start
so
conversations?
this is my secret. So the first one is connection. Try to make it sound like, even if you're connecting with multiple people, you can still use the same messaging, but let's say like, "Hey, I'm kind of new to this role, or I'm new to this industry. Love to connect with." I always put something funny like, I like rad people like you, or awesome people like you. And then if I don't get a response, I'll still follow up. I'll see if they do connect. Let's say they do a connection. Then my second one to them is, "Hey, Stefan, thanks for connecting. If there's anybody in my network that I can introduce you to, let me know. I'd be happy to help." That one 90% of the time gets some kind of response. It's either, "Hey, thanks," or "Right back at you," anything like that. And then my third one, which sounds like a lot of work, but it really isn't. The third one is just, um, sorry, now I'm blanking, but I'll put in brackets, hey, this is my shameless plug. Hey, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you that I'm an SDR here at People Data Labs. And then I'll say, like, we have 3.2 billion personal profiles, 18 million company profiles. If you guys are looking for data, I'd love to chat with you. And then just keep it real simple. And if they say no thanks, then I follow up with the fourth one. This with is just a GIF. So I'll put like I'll look up no worries, and I'll put a GIF that's like somebody just something funny that always sticks out. So those are like 4 messages that I'm doing really well on my outbound with that.
This is so awesome. You're lucky because this podcast is very small and not a lot of people are gonna hear this. But like this is LinkedIn sales 101. I think and I think especially the second message that you send, which is like, hey, I'm gonna give something to you. So like, you're the one providing value, even though like, okay, obviously we can, I can go through your profile, I can reach out to people, but still, I've never heard about this, like of this message, and this is really, really awesome. Okay, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and I would say too is making, and that if somebody does reach out to me and say, hey, do you know anybody at some company, I don't know, like Visa, MasterCard, or Amazon or something, I'll be like, oh well, let me check, and then I'll look and I'll say, oh okay, well I know maybe a product manager. I just leverage LinkedIn. That even though I'm connected to somebody, obviously I've probably never talked to a product manager at eBay or Google or something, right? But we're connected. So I'm just going to leverage that because that's what LinkedIn's all about. So I'll be like, hey, Stefan, product manager at Apple. I want to introduce you to so and so, and they sell this. Just wanted to introduce you guys. I've done that a bunch of times too. I don't get anything out of it other than the fact that now I have 2 people that I'm connected with on LinkedIn that I actually am like, oh, I've had a connection with you. It's a legitimate connection, not just I have 30,000 connections. You're just one of many. It's like, oh, I'm actually helping somebody. So that's
That's
helpful.
exactly, that's but basically, I don't think there's like a downside to it, right? I mean, has it ever backfired or anything?
No, because I'm not vouching. I'm not vouching for either one. I'm just saying, hey,
Yeah.
you have this need, you have this need, they align. I'm just going to introduce you guys hash it out, and then they take it offline, and then it's goes from there. But that's all you're doing is leveraging the tool.
Nice, nice. That's really awesome. Okay, let me see. So the next one is, what is your favorite call to action?
My favorite call to action is um honestly it's just on my email. Most of the emails I send is just like, um sound interesting, let's chat, and then just put a hyperlink in there to my calendar link. um I mean, that's just my favorite call to action is sometimes people say don't put calendar links or anything
Yeah.
in Gene, but I find that it's pretty effective.
Gotcha. No, I think that, depending on the industry and how your prospects react to, whatever you're doing with them is the only, like the final determinator. Am I pronouncing that properly? Um, it's it's basically the main thing that determines what you're gonna do, because like interest-based call to actions, like time-based call to actions, this or that, like as long as your prospects are positively reacting to what you're doing, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Okay, but how do you book a call? Like, for example, at the end of a cold call, you would probably be like, hey, let me stop you there. Maybe we should take this, and chat when I'm not, pinging you out of the blue or something like that. How does that look like?
Yeah, so if we have a conversation and they want to roll the dice, they want to talk for 17 seconds, I do my pitch, and they're like, yeah, that's actually pretty interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about, what kind of customer schema do you have or something? Then what I'll do is I'll say, you know what, I can answer that now, and that's great. What I'd like to do is maybe just book some time where I can actually give you a demo and show you how our tool looks as far as like the JSON response. Um, would you be able to meet later this week and then just pick a day? Like, do you want to meet this Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific time? Would that work for you? And then if you have anybody else you want to bring on the call, let me know, and I can have a data consultant on the call with you.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. That's smooth as hell. I like it.
It's just
And
relationship.
finally,
You have to be real.
yeah,
It's just you have
yeah,
to be real and not think about what you're going to say next. Just how am I going to help this person? And in turn, it ends up helping you because then you get a booked meeting and you can get an enterprise sales rep on the call or somebody else that needs to.
Yep. What is your favorite tech sales acronym?
I don't know. I don't know if I really even have one. Like, I don't have an answer to that question.
That's okay. That's okay. Let's just use ESR. You just used it, or maybe, maybe we can use PDL. That still works, right? People Data
Yeah,
Labs.
PDL is probably my favorite one since they pay me. So
That's there we go. Okay. Okay. Super SDR Nick. This was awesome. I really enjoyed our chat. Finally, the third time that we are trying to do this. Okay, to be fair, the first time was just you measuring whether this makes sense or not, and let's be honest there. And then the second one, sorry about the camera, but anyway, I'm very happy you wanted to do this. I'm very happy I got to share with the audience your experience and your expertise, and you really do have a rich background, and I think a lot of us can learn from you. So thank you very much.
well, thank you for having me. This was really fun, and I'm glad I rolled the dice to see if I wanted to talk to you.
I'm glad as well. I'm glad as well. I guess I did my cold pitch properly, right?
Yeah, you did.
Well, awesome. Okay, that's it. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you around.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you for tuning in to the SDR Hire podcast, the only podcast exclusively focused on SDRs, where successful salespeople share about their hiring stories and sales adventures straight from the trenches. If you found this useful, go ahead and share it with someone else you know is trying to break into tech or land their next SDR gig. You can find SDR Hire on all major podcast platforms as well as YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and catch you in the next episode.